All right, St. Louis decided to take just a few minutes to come on, just to share what I think we must begin to understand. It's important that we get beyond where we have traveled. We must go deeper. We must begin to look outside the box. We must begin to understand that we unfortunately have not evolved in mind. In other words, if you're dying daily, life expectancy from birth, you getting older, that means that all that appear to be outside you is inside you. I know that's hard to grasp, but we have to begin to understand that the reason we haven't strengthened our mind, synapses, neurotransmitters, prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, amygdala, whatever you want to call it, the reason we haven't reached that higher state of consciousness and awareness exponentially 24816 3264 is because we're moving linear, we're moving too slow. So as a result of our movement, we can't measure the position of the velocity, the position and or the velocity at the same time. It's a distorted view. But that's all occurring within us. The kingdom is in you. Everything that you see outside you is happening on the inside of you. If you're depressed, suffering from anxiety, etc., it's happening on the inside of you. It's no different than a computer that may have a virus. So as a result of the virus, it can't compute in the manner in which it needs to compute in order to give you the answers because it has a virus. But it's reflecting its inability to perform based upon the monitor that you are now looking at. The human mind works similar. We have the ability to reach the speed of light, minus absent from all darkness and friction. We built this world that we currently call our home with an undeveloped mind. The mind had not reached maturity. And as a result of it not reaching maturity, we only built it at the strength of what we had the capability of building it, which was an era. In other words, it has to be complete. In other words, when you think of conservation of energy, from the beginning to the end, cause and effect, laws of thermodynamics, entropy increases, chaos and disorder, that should clearly tell you that your neural net, your mind, your synapses, your cells, down to the neutron, down to the nucleus, is firing within you. And as a result of its inability to fire correctly, it's causing you to see the world with a distorted view. In other words, you're seeing hallucinations, but those hallucinations have become your reality. And they're going to continue to be that way until you can literally stop time. But in order to stop time, you must strengthen your mind. Many of you might not like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I think it's important for us to begin to understand that we are following deception. The reason there is so many different denominations and different religions, from Catholic, Buddhist, Hinduism, Christianity, Muslims, etc., thousands, is because the mind hadn't reached the level of perfection to know that all those religions have the ability to become one once they fuse together at the micro level. But unfortunately, due to the expansion of the undeveloped mind, they can't catch what's actually occurring because it's too far ahead of them. In other words, you have to reach the speed of light to be able to see what's actually going on. And as a result of seeing, you would stop the decay. You would stop the cause and effect. You would literally stop following false doctrine, false religion. You would need medications. You would need liver and heart transplants, kidney transplants. You would need the things in which you need because the sound wouldn't change. In other words, if we can stop the sound, we can stop the time. Everything is sound. But we named it time. If I say to you, 1 watt light bulb, 1 watt, most of you know 25, 100 watt light bulbs, is equivalent to 1 horsepower, which would be roughly right about 747 watts, would be equivalent to 1 horsepower. Most of you know about Ferraris and cars that might travel at about 900, we'll say 1,000 horsepower. So if it's 1,000 horsepower, you're going to need a tremendous amount of watts light in order to be equivalent to that Ferrari in power. What am I saying? Power is not as you believe power is. You think because the truck can move at 5,000 miles an hour, that's a lot of power. No, you can exceed the truck based upon you strengthening in mind. And as a result, the truck that's moving at that speed wouldn't be able to touch you because you would be so far ahead of it. In other words, you're living in the past because your mind is decaying. That's the reason you're living in the past. You're following false religion and false doctrine. You follow these fables and stories. And as a result of following fables and stories, your consciousness is being seared like a hot iron. It's like taking some jumper cables and literally shocking you and causing your neural net to become damaged. And as a result, you don't know it's been damaged, but you're living in the shock. The shock itself is the noise. It's just like hurricanes and earthquakes that you can't see, but they're actually, the storms are all around you because you are literally one with that storm. In other words, just imagine if you can become whole, you can literally stop time. I'm speaking in terms of for you. And once you stop time, you're going to be in the world, but not of the world, in the system, but not of the system, because you're going to literally stop the entropy, the noise, the disorder. You're going to create a vacuum. We must seek to become more intellectually astute and stop following these people. They are blind, but it's going to take us that have this level of understanding to teach those and show them their error. So I admit we have a responsibility for those of us that understand, because if not, nothing will change. Our grandbabies will follow the same trajectory. Our great-grandbabies, our great-great-grandbabies. I want to believe that we can literally be able to see our great-great-great-grandbabies if we can stop time. In other words, we're going the wrong way. We're going towards the wide gate that lead to destruction and the narrow gate that lead to life. Not many have found. We take into account Einstein, Isaac Newton, and all these so-called geniuses. But if they were really as smart as we say they are, they would have figured out how the universe was formed. They would figure out who God is. But yet they haven't figured it out because the fact that they're decaying, they're perishing. God is not who you think God is. God is a perfect sound, a perfect light. You must manifest that sound. And in order to manifest, your brain, your mind must reach a certain level of power that will free you from the friction and heat. And as a result, you will be able to articulate and understand things you were incapable of understanding because now you have the power to process it. The information that's all around you. So I wanted to come on just to say it's time for us to say all or nothing. We have Silicon Valley out there in San Francisco. A lot of big tech companies started in Silicon Valley, from Google to Facebook. I'm assuming Apple, a lot of different companies have started that way. And maybe one of the reasons it started that way is because most companies, if they're amongst people with the same level of thought and mind, they can all corroborate collectively together and help one another to come up with a system. And that's what we must do. We must literally disrupt the system in which we currently dwell and build a different system. And the system in which I'm speaking of is a system that can literally reverse the laws of thermodynamics and stop time. And as a result, we will be able to change the fabric of space and time, and we will begin to understand that nothing is outside you, but everything is in you. May God continue to bless you and get you to understand that you must manifest that perfect sound. And that we shall. That we shall. It's time. God bless.